We are live. Sussie's just going to check that we are live. Welcome everybody. Really lovely to be on here with you this morning. I am Jennifer. I'm the director of the Academy of Modern Celebrancy. Welcome everybody. Really lovely to. Right. I just needed to check we're all good. I'm Jennifer. I'm the director of the Academy of Modern Celebrancy, and we're doing a spotlight series this week to say hello to some of our amazing students and graduates, to find out a little bit about them and why they decided to train and become a celebrant, and what it is that they love about being a celebrant, and what it is that they hope for in their future of being a celebrant. So I'm joined here with Suszie today, and I'm really excited to talk to Suszie. She comes from kind of a similar background to me. We've both worked in the fundraising industry, and of course then diving into the world of celebrancy. So whereabouts are you based, Suszie? Let's let everyone know whereabouts you are.
So I am based in Winchester, in the south of England.
Good. So I grew up in Southampton myself, so we're very close. Tell me a little bit about your journey. So what were you doing before you decided to embark on your journey as a celebrant?
Yeah, so I've spent the last 20 years of my career in fundraising, as you said. So I have spent that time working in predominantly small to medium-sized regional health-based charities, and have worked across all income streams within fundraising, and currently work as a head of fundraising in a children and young adult hospice alongside my celebrancy work.
Yeah, amazing. So what inspired you? What started your energy towards celebrancy? What was your light bulb moment, as it were?
So it was a few years ago. I reached a point where I probably realised I was halfway through my career, roughly, give or take a few years. And I suppose just took a pause and had a thought, had some coaching. And celebrancy was born from doing that. And it was because my light bulb moment, I guess, was what I really identified was I'm really passionate about supporting people, and I love supporting people. And I particularly like supporting people when they need it most, which is where the funeral focus came in. And it also, there was lots of different pieces to the jigsaw puzzle as to why celebrancy became sort of my next avenue within my career. One of them was the fact that for years I've always liked the idea of being a funeral director. No idea where that ever came from.
No, I completely get it.
But I always thought, oh, I'd quite like to do that. And we were at a colleague of mine, her husband passed away very suddenly, and we were at his funeral. And I said to another colleague, I said, oh, I always liked the idea of being a funeral director. And he said, oh, you'd be good at that before. And then after the service, he went, oh, no. He said, you're too smiley. He said, you wouldn't be good at that. He said, but you would be really good at the speaky bit. And so there was various sort of bits of the puzzle that came together. Yeah. And that's what landed me. So there was various sort of bits. And I know a few other people who have gone from fundraising to celebrancy as well. I think that's a fairly common kind of step. And it kind of brought all my skills together. And
I think it's that, when you work in a community role or a support role, or you work when you want to help people, you want to change lives, you want to support people in some of the toughest moments of their lives, but also some of the most beautiful moments of their lives, that, celebrancy, becoming a celebrant really does slot in as a really nice, part of the jigsaw of life, when you can do it all, but you can do it for yourself as well. Was starting a business for yourself, an element of why you decided to become a celebrant?
Yeah, definitely. So I have 2 primary school age children, and creating that flexibility, I suppose, to be around and be available for them more was definitely part of the thought process. As I said, I kind of do both. And probably will continue to, because I am someone that likes to have, I always used to call myself flitty. Oh, I like my fingers in lots of pots, and I'm a bit flitty. And this coach I had, she said, oh, look up a TED talk called a multi-potentialite. And so I did. Like look, it's only about 15 minutes long, this video. And when you watch something and you go, oh, that's me. And actually giving myself that. So I like to kind of have that variety, which also celebrancy feeds into really beautifully as well, because I started out with the funerals predominantly, but actually have now do all. And it gives that variety and that difference, which keeps me motivated as well. So, but no, going back to your question about having my own business and giving myself that choice and that flexibility was absolutely definitely a real motivator.
Yeah, for sure. There's, it's so exciting having your own business as well. Like, and I think it's really nice to combine, what you've got. Again, when you work in the support industry or in a fundraising capacity or anything like that, you enjoy what you do as well. So it's not necessarily, one of the motivating factors might not be that you want to completely give up what you are doing currently. So how does it slot in for you at the moment?
So it's a juggle, but then I quite like a juggle. So I have to accept that. Because I think however I lived my life, I would always be juggling multiple things because I do loads of volunteering as well. Primarily because I have an inability to say no, but that's another discussion for another day. I'm getting better. But it is a juggle, and there are times when it can be quite stressful. I have a really understanding employer, and actually because I strongly believe my celebrancy really benefits my fundraising work as well. And I'm just at the moment starting talks about how I could support our families when their child or young person dies, as and when appropriate. Just as a kind of an extension to both my celebrancy, but also combining the two. And obviously I do then do services that then donate money to charities and some have been for the hospice I've worked at. And so that's been a really nice kind of combination of both my worlds. But it's a juggle. I work part-time at the hospice, and I have my sort of set hours that I do there. And then I then accordingly plan my celebrancy around that. So I know what I'm available, when I'm available, and what I can do. Can be a bit more challenging with funerals because of the short turnarounds, and also not wanting to let funeral directors down. I mean, I get most of my funeral business through funeral directors, but I do also get some directly, and obviously I'm trying to do more on that from that point of view for exactly the reasons of not being reliant on funeral directors. So, and I'm not tied to anyone in particular, so I try to spread the love. But that can be harder. But again, I suppose I am fortunate with fundraising, because fundraising is a very variable job too. So yes, I have set hours. I have a set hours I work per week for the hospice, and generally they take the same form of each week, but not always, because I do have to do evenings, I do have to do weekends, and as long as I'm flexible for that role. So therefore I get flexibility back for my other role, and so just combine the two and just juggle it really, and have a very supportive husband.
And do you find working at the hospice as well, do you find that beneficial because you can talk about your funeral celebrancy work? Is that something that you do comfortably?
Yeah, very much. Yeah, I think I bore everybody, if I'm honest. They'll be like, oh, here she goes again. But I think actually it fits in really beautifully. So one of the things we talk about within the hospice is around, we don't shy away from the fact that we do end of life for children and young people. And it's about giving people, both the individual but their families, kind of the best experience we can in what is in an impossibly horrendously horrible situation. And so actually the whole kind of ethos, I'm really passionate about talking about funerals, getting people to have that conversation before they die, so that people are aware of the importance that they play within you in your grief journey and within society. We've lost a lot of that over the years within the Western society. So they kind of feed each other really. They feed into each other really beautifully, because actually it's one of the things we talk a lot about within the work we do at the hospice. So obviously we do work with funeral directors at the hospice as well. So that's opened up some really lovely conversations, because I can talk more. I'm not just talking to them about why they should get families to donate to the charity. It takes the conversation to a deeper level, which I think absolutely then benefits the hospice.
Have you had any situations where you've done any living funerals, or where you've had any ceremonies there, anything like that?
No, not yet. I haven't, but I would love to, because I think that's I always think funerals are so amazing, and they offer such a important space for people for multiple reasons. So it's obviously the acknowledgement that someone has actually died, and they're, physically they are no longer here. But I think one of the most rewarding elements is when so many people turn up and the family aren't expecting that. And that whole impact that person has had on a community that is more than what the family were expecting. And you just go, oh, if only the person, and I have sadly done a suicide, and there was hundreds and hundreds of people that turned up to that funeral, and you just go, if only you could have seen what has, the impact that you've had on everybody. And obviously mental health is a very, very challenging condition, and you can't really ever imagine what it must be like to feel that that's your only way out and that you're doing everyone a favor. But just, if you could have just seen the outpouring of love for you and the impact you've had, then maybe the outcome would have been different. So I'd love to do a living funeral. I think it'd be amazing.
Yeah. And do you think exactly that, like the ability to say goodbye to your loved one, like it must change the whole grieving process from start to finish, if you have that. But I think what we have in society is this reluctance to talk about death. Obviously, we're not talking here about suicide, but we're talking about, long-term illness, or when it comes to a hospice situation, the ability to feel comfortable to talk about death. And I think that is the beauty of also becoming a funeral celebrant, is that it's not taboo to us to talk about the passing of others, and be able to open up that conversation for families that find it difficult, right?
Yeah,
and is that
totally.
something you've been able to do?
Yeah, so I've started to do it more. So I've been again within the hospice. So we have a chaplaincy team, we have a chaplain, and it's been really interesting having conversations with her around, a lot of the work she does with our children and young people, particularly our young people, and particularly those that have got conditions that mean they're completely cognitively able. So they're fully aware of their own mortality and their own, that they are going to die young. A lot of work with them around how they process that, really, I guess, and their own awareness around that. So I've started, it's been interesting having conversations with her, because she's brilliant, and she has a spiritual impact, but she is a Church of England priest, and being the fact that I'm an independent celebrant as well, that whole, that I am completely independent, so I'm not governed by any personal faith or any other faith, but also kind of wider in the community. So I'm a trustee of another charity, and through that I've got to some other links, and there is a very well-known funeral director in our area, and also the Archdeacon of Winchester. The three of us have started having conversations around actually how, only in our own small way, because it's small steps, isn't it, but actually what's within our power and within our area to actually start getting people to have the conversations. Obviously churches are keen for people to go back into having funerals in the church, and I think there is a real argument for, there are people out there now that don't think they want that, but actually if they thought about it probably would still like to do that, but they don't talk about it, and then they die, and then their family have to make that decision. So I just like to open up the conversation to get people talking, however that may be, whether and that they know what their options are. And so we've started those conversations, and we're going to look to see what we can do across kind of our networks to just keep that conversation. I've done some WI talks as well, and around that, just open up the conversation, talk about it, because I did a funeral the other day, and it was for a lady, and it was her niece and her husband that were organising the funeral, and it was really interesting because we then got on to kind of, well, funerals, obviously, because I was going to talk about her aunts, but the wife was like, oh, I don't want a funeral, I just want a direct cremation. And her husband was like, I know you do, but if you go first, I will really struggle with that. And it was, and it was, we had a brief chat, the three of us, and then sort of I went away going, but actually they both said, we need to actually sit down and have this conversation now, because it's not
so important.
It's about the deceased, but a funeral is about the deceased, but it's for the living. And so it's, actually it is what you want, but it's also not what you want. It's what your loved ones need to help them process your death. So
absolutely.
In my own small way, I'm trying to do things.
I mean, you do, everything we do at Celebrants makes a difference to people's lives, however much, this role that we do is working with people at the most pivotal times in their lives, at these key moments in time, whether it is through a wedding, a naming ceremony, welcoming a new child, or obviously, what we're talking about in regards to the funerals. How do you feel, in regards to training, how do you feel your training, but not only your training, also the community that's around you has supported you in your growth as a
Oh,
celebrant?
it's just phenomenal. I think when I look to train, obviously there's various different places you can train with. So I looked at them all and weighed them all up, and obviously chose the academy. And it's just the of the depth of training and the knowledge that you have to gain is, I think, it's absolutely first class. Like, you have to really, for each of the different, I really love the fact, first of all, that you don't have to, it's not right, you're going to become a celebrant and you're going to do all of it. Actually,
Mm,
you can choose. So to begin with, I just did funerals because I was like, well, this is what started me on this journey. So I'll just do the funeral module first of all. And then I've subsequently gone on and done weddings and namings, but you don't have to, and you can pick. And I think that's a real strength of the training, because it means you focus on
yeah.
where your passions are and where you believe you want, how and what you want to do. But then the depth with which the course goes into is, from my experience of having met other celebrants and found out, is absolutely surpasses any other, because it's that you do have to put the time in, but you put the time in your own way. It's not all in a preset sort of dates, and you come out the end of the training and genuinely you are absolutely 100% ready to do a service. Like, it's really nerve-wracking the first ones you do afterward. Well, they're all
Oh,
nerve-wracking, you never, because they're exciting, aren't they? And I think if you don't, you're doing something that's really important in people's lives, be it funeral, wedding, naming, whatever. So actually,
yeah,
if you don't get a bit nervous, then that's not.
of
I
course.
remember Brené Brown saying about, somebody asked her if she still gets scared when she goes to these big arenas to do her talks, and she said, I don't get scared, but I still get nervous, because
Of course,
people are
yeah.
giving up their time, and time is the most precious thing people can give. And I thought
Mm.
that sort of differentiating between scared and nervous is really key. But I think, those first ones you do are like, but actually what you then realize is your training has absolutely covered everything that you could possibly need it to, and that you're fully equipped to do what you need to do. And then you have the whole community that's your
Yeah.
biggest cheerleaders. Like, you can't get any bigger cheerleaders than the AMC community, and they're there if you've got any questions, and there's no judgment, there's no it's a really safe community, and just, really, really supportive. And the business that will give, people can't, we share the whole community over competition is absolutely at the heart of it. And I can only sing its praises. And actually, the funeral director in Winchester that I've been talking to, who is a very traditional funeral director, his family have been in the industry for hundreds probably of years, maybe not, but a long time, goes back multiple generations. He's been the chair of the national fundraising directors, and when he asked me who I trained with, and I said, oh, I've trained with you, he went, oh yeah, he said, they do it properly. And I
Oh,
thought, oh,
really?
okay. But I thought, yes, you're quite right, they do it properly.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I mean,
um
that's so important to me, as you say, about getting nervous about going to do ceremonies. Every time I meet with every single student that comes on to the academy, and that's really important to me. But it's the same, it's a responsibility. The course has been created by some incredible celebrants, but it is in depth. And it's
yes.
not an easy tick box course. And you do have to write, 2 ceremony scripts. You do have to do some performance as part of the certification. And it's all into prepping you to be able to do that first ceremony, because it is a responsibility. And, there's no easy way of putting it. I can't put on a page, being a funeral celebrant's easy, train with us and it's easy. It's a comprehensive course, but also you are going out there again at one of the most pivotal moments in people's lives. Of course, there's going to be, an air of caution and nervousness and things that come along with doing it. And I am very proud of the community that we've created. I think we are one huge big family of supporters and cheerleaders of each other, and that's something that you just can't buy, right? That community that you build. So I'm really, really happy that you've taken that experience away from the course. So I think finally, let me ask you, how has becoming a celebrant changed your life? How has it inputted into your life and made a difference to what it is? I'm sure you can hear all of these birds.
Okay.
Made a difference to what it is that you're doing, day to day.
So my guinea pigs might start in a minute, so that could be a cacophony of noise. They think there's any food around, they'll start squeaking. Oh, it's really, I think it's absolutely changed my life, really, in terms of giving me that new focus, really satisfying that kind of multi-potentialite nature that I have. And because it's always different. So, even as at the moment, I'm a bit quiet on funerals, but I've got a few weddings coming up in the spring. So I'm really focusing on those. And it's really that variety really is what motivates me as well. I think it's also given me confidence. I mean, I think, the whole imposter syndrome thing has been very real in my life, as it is for many years. And I think going out and doing this and realizing actually that I am good at it and I get really beautiful feedback is has boosted my confidence across everything, really. And it has also almost made me find my mojo with fundraising again as well. I think, I'd kind of got to a bit, hence why I had that coaching of being a bit, I'm in the middle of my career and, I love fundraising, but do I really want to still be doing this in 20 years time? Do I not?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to go higher. I know that than the level I'm at. And it's kind of, I think, it's just really remotivated me and given me a real focus. I mean, my daughter just rolls her eyes now about funerals, but then I also love that because my kids are so open to what that is and what I do. She just says I do them in a really weird voice. So could I not?
I love
just
that.
sound like mummy.
And it's funny when you join the industry because I scroll through my Facebook feed now and I see people selling coffins and things like that. And people look over my shoulder, think, what are you doing? It's not necessarily something that's on everyone's, list when they're growing up, but the feelings that you get and, the pride that you get and, the ability to change lives through this role is just incredible. And I think anyone, is lucky to find it and realize that could be a position.
It's a really special role. And I did a beautiful adoption ceremony last year, which was just really magical for a family, who had struggled for many years to become parents, and then adoption had been the route. And it was just being part of these beautiful moments. And obviously weddings are just, again, last year I did a wedding for an older couple who had both been happily married but were widowed, and then found each other as companions, didn't actually want to legally get married because they had their families and everything, all the legalities was best to keep separate. So kind of fell upon a celebrant-led wedding. And then we created this really beautiful, I did a sound ceremony with 20 children because they wanted to include all their grandchildren and their great nieces and nephews. And it was beautiful. It was one of those things I was just like, yeah, let's go for it. Let's give it a try. They wanted to include the kids and I'm all for that. Let's just include them and involve them in it. And I was like, it's going to go one way or the other. It's either going to be horrendous and there's going to be sound everywhere, or it's going to be amazing. And it was amazing. They got left with this beautiful vase of trying to find 20 different coloured sounds. That was really challenging. that was really difficult. But we did, and again, like with things this year, it's a really special job and it's a real honour to do it and a real privilege. Be that, being part of people's any life event, happy or sad. It's just, it's amazing. And I'm very glad I found
love it. And I love it so much how every single person I talk to, how it just lights you up. Yeah. It's one of those positions that you just love doing and you want to do all the time. Yes. And, it's never stressful really either. It's because you're passionate about it and you love doing it.
It generally doesn't. My husband said the other day when I was doing a script for one of my funerals, and he said, do you feel like you're working? I went, no, I really don't actually. It just doesn't feel like work. I just absolutely love sitting down and writing about people. And he went, he said, so it can be true then. You can find a job that doesn't feel like work. Because we often have that conversation. People go, I never worked a day in my life because I love my job. And we're always a bit cynical about it.
Yeah.
But then he went, and I went, yeah. I suppose that's true. There we go.
Amazing. Suszie, thank you so much for your time and your energy and, you know, your passion for what it is that you do. It's really appreciative. And I'm sure, you know, you're here to answer questions as well. You know, I'll have a look on the feed to see if there's any questions. But it's an absolute pleasure to speak with you today. And yeah, thank you so much and wish you all the best on your journey. And I know we'll still be in touch anyway, but thank you, Suszie.
No problem at all. Bye.
Bye.